Thank you very much for having us. I will let our Deputy Director of the project to introduce the project first, and I will go to the environmental details of the project.
Thank you, Azeb, for the introduction, and thank you all for having us. My name is SUMM, and I'm the Deputy Director of the SUMM project. The SUMM project is supporting Ministry of Mines project. It's a GAG-funded project based on the request of the Ethiopian government, specifically the Ministry of Mines, to improve the governance of natural resource. As you all know, Canada is one of the mining jurisdictions, and they govern their natural resources well. So we want to learn as much as possible from them, and not making the mistake of others in irresponsibly managing resources. And Dr. Carlo just give us the highlight of what that can look like if you are not taking leading practices from other companies. So saying that from the other countries, saying that it is a 50 million Canadian dollar project, focusing on identified gaps by the ministry and the Geological Institute of Ethiopia and regional mining bureaus. And the ultimate goal is to increase revenue, employment opportunities for women and men in Ethiopia. And once actually the project is not prescribing solutions, it is rather user driven, or it is themselves who do the gap analysis, and then international leading practices will come into play, and then after validating what is required, then we move to the implementation. And based on the identified gaps on mineral licensing, on governance, on environment, and also on geoscience information, the project supported the ministry, the Geological Institute of Ethiopia, and regional mining bureaus by deploying international experts to build the capacity of the officers at regional and federal level, and also to provide enabling infrastructures, ICT infrastructures, to manage mineral licenses better, to share and organize geoscience information data better. So it actually lays the foundation for responsible resource management going forward. The systems put in place right now, regional and federal level, present seamlessly, and Ethiopia taking ownership and sustaining these interventions to do more transparent natural resource governance at lower administration levels as well. So that is basically what we were doing in the past more than 5 years. And we are at the final stage of the project, where we are working on sustainability and exit strategy. And we are pleased with how things are unfolding and how receptive the regional and other stakeholders who took part in this initiative take it strongly, and would like to further strengthen the management of it, bringing the transparency and making Ethiopia a responsible mining jurisdiction going forward. So I think with that, I will leave the floor to Azeb to give you a highlight on what environmental activities we have done. We have worked on to formalize artisanal mining. It is just a pilot, and we work on environment and gender. Specifically, we would like to empower women in the mining sector, and we are advocating for that. And we work with regional mining bureaus doing gender audits and coming up with gender mainstreaming guidelines and other documents that should guide the regional mining bureaus, the federal levels, and others to take the example and not being gender blind in their assessment of projects, programs, and any development initiatives for that matter. So Azeb, the floor is yours if you would like to give the audience on what environmental interventions we made in the past 5 years.
Okay, thank you, Fitsum. Mr. Fitsum described all the project's activity, but I will specifically discuss on the environmental activities that some projects have done for the last 5 years. So after identifying the gaps in the mining sector of Ethiopia, the major thing was the capacity gap in the government and regional officials. So we were able to give training on environmental and social impact assessment, occupational health and safety, and also community development. So we try to identify most internationally known organizations, for example, the IGF and the IAIA. So we contracted them to give certified trainings for the regional and federal environmental experts, and also for academicians in the regions. There are a lot of universities that can work closely to the mining society. So we also include them on the capacity development trainings so that they can transfer their knowledge to the locals immediately, since they are close to the mining sector. And one of the other thing is that the policy gaps that we also identified during the inception time of the project. So we also conducted a lot of researches on the legal framework of Ethiopia on the mining sector. And one of the gap was in the environmental impact assessment area. So we also do work with the UBC, University of British Columbia, and develop a roadmap for Ethiopia mining sector on environmental impact assessment. There is also a self-assessment diagnostic tools developed for as a whole in the world, but they implement it in Ethiopia and see where the gaps are. And the other big issue was in the ministry. They are the compliance monitoring agency or authorities, and they don't have any lab equipment that they can go and check whether the mining companies are working properly and disposing their water and other wastes to the environment. So we also able to buy them environmental lab equipment. So these are the activities that we do. The major thing that we can say and highlight is the preparation of a directive to regulate the allocation of community development fund from the exploration and mining company. In the legislation, it was not really specific to put these kinds of funds by the mining companies, but in 2019, with the support of some projects, we tried to prepare the directive and they implement it. So we can see the difference after having these directives implemented. There are a lot of community development projects properly implemented to the local community, and also the capacity of the local and the regional mining bureaus on managing these kinds of projects. So it's really a big issue and achievement for the project when we discuss about environment, social, and governance issue. So, for example, we can say we were having research on before introducing this directive for the last 10 years, the ministry were able to only implement 8 community development projects with the support of mining and exploration companies. But after introducing this directive, within 3 years, they were able to implement 22 community development projects. So it's really a big deal for our country to have these kinds of regulatory things. So the next thing that we are planning is to have a study mission for the regional and the Ministry of Mines, since the government of Ethiopia is also shifting its interest to artisanal mining in the sector. It's better to have really a good experience before going into detail and work in the artisanal mining, since it's really a big issue which can degrade biodiversity and also the poison and water sources in the area. So we are planning to have a benchmarking best practice environmental practices in Mongolia, since they are also a good example of the ASM sector. We are having this mission in May, so hopefully it will be a very good chance for Ethiopia and the Ministry of Mines to have these leading practices from countries like Mongolia. So this is really a good opportunity for Ministry of Mines, and this study mission also includes the empowerment of women in ASM. This is one. So the other is the gender mainstreaming. As a cross-cutting issue, we also include gender in all our activities. So as Mr. Fitsum stated in previously, we produce 3 knowledge products for the country with respect to the mining sector. So we produce a gender strategy, gender mainstreaming guideline, and a gender training manual, so that they can use it in a sustainable way to manage the gender issue in the mining sector. So, and there was also a study, as Mr. Fitsum said, to identify the opportunities for women in ASM and the small scale mining. So that study provide us with a number of opportunities for Ethiopian women in ASM. So one of this is the training and the empowerment activities, the supporting women in cooperative and associations, improving technology for ASM miners, and addressing health and safety issue. Since in developing country, mostly occupational health and safety is not an issue, but it's really affecting the local community and also the miners. And also the climate change adaptation and mitigation is one of the opportunity for our country, since we are on the verge of having a mining era. We have to consider these things and do well. So when we come to the artisanal miners, I think it's better if it's continuous.
Yes, thank you, Azeb. For artisanal mining, we made a number of study missions in Latin America, North America, and also some African countries like Kenya, and produce a roadmap to guide the formalization. An informal way of doing mining is actually the main, we identify the main cause of environmental degradation and pollution, or through use of toxic chemicals. So we actually produce a roadmap in consultation with stakeholders. All the study missions conducted, the knowledge gained from the study missions lead to the development of this roadmap that now translates into local language and is used to guide the formalization of the ASM sector. because the ASM sector is really important, and most of the ASM activities happen on the Nile tributary, which supports the livelihood of more than 40 million people. And these tributaries, if not protected, if we are not aggressively addressing the gap in knowledge through various sensitization workshops and through various trainings, then it is going to be too late. So we just piloted a formalization initiative, and people were the artisanal miners were very interested. And when we were showing them videos of the Minamata disease and others, they were shocked. And if people are unaware, the harm is not going to stop at the community level. This Nile tributary is not only a source of life for Ethiopia, but also neighboring countries like Sudan and Egypt. So we really have to work aggressively, and I hope the government of Ethiopia will take this initiative to work with other development partners to bring the desired impact on that. And we also shared these products, the knowledge products, the roadmap with UNITAR, who are also interested in producing a gender chemical use roadmap. And so we are very much interested in seeing the sector do their mining responsibilities responsibly. That is why we are pushing them to reclaim land, and this Mongolian study mission will give them an additional knowledge on mercury-free technologies, on frugal land rehabilitation techniques that can be adapted to Ethiopian context, and we will protect the environment while socially, responsibly conducting ASM activities. Thank you. Azeb, next slide. Yeah, sustainability and exit strategy, because most of the time we see the gap in the ministry that knowledge products are not shared effectively, and people are reinventing the wheel and resources are wasted. So this project would like to be an example, and we developed a knowledge portal. We put all our products over the 6 years as open source, and all of you can access. We will leave the link to you. All of you can access the products developed in the project's lifetime, and it can be accommodating more resources for the government to refer to and conduct responsible mining going forward. Thank you. I think that's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much to both of you. I mean, so impressive what's been put together over the last 5 years and everything that you're continuing to do. So everybody, if you please put your hands together to say a massive thank you to both Azeb and Mr. Fitsum. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Now, just with regards to time, we are running a little bit tight on time at the moment, and I can see there are lots of comments beginning to come in saying that we're really impressed actually by especially the gender and the artisanal and small scale mining initiatives that you've got happening at the moment. So just one question from myself. You're learning from, or you're going to go and work with the Mongolians to find out how they are doing things. Are there any other countries or parts of the world that you have worked with closely to try and draw on some of those good practice? And actually, are you seeing other countries learning from you?
Yes, study missions has been conducted at Peru and Chile, because they are also good mining jurisdictions, and also Migori, Kenya, and also with delegates from the ministry also visited Namibia, and also Yukon, Canada. These, and at the culmination of all this, now the delegates will travel to Mongolia, trying to formalize the ASM sector and properly govern it, and formalizing and forming associations. If you want to eradicate poverty, you have to, you cannot give a blind eye to 1.2 million people who are directly working on artisanal mining. and nearly 6 or 7 million people indirectly working at the sector. So the leading practices are learned, but a lot needs to be done. We are not claiming to cover all of the needs of the community and the artisanal miners there. We identified their gaps through studies for opportunities for women in ASM, and also this Mongolia study mission will give additional input. But if development agents, in partnership with the Ethiopian government, act on it, the sector has a huge potential to protect the environment, at the same time improve the livelihood of many people. So that's what we strongly believe.
Fantastic, thank you. Azeb, have you got anything to add to that answer?
No, everything is said by Fitsum, but I don't think there is, until now, we don't have delegates come to Ethiopia and visit the Ministry of Mines, but investors and mining companies are really coming to Ethiopia, since the Ministry of Mines are participating in international conferences like PDAC and Indaba. So the country's mineral resources are introduced well there. Thank you.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So, I mean, I think with regards to this and looking at some of the questions we've been having coming in on the Q&A as well, actually by really getting to grips with the artisanal mining and as you were both mentioning there, the sheer number of people who are involved in the artisanal and small scale mining, and making sure that the well-being of those individuals, etc., is enhanced where possible, is truly fantastic. So thank you so much for coming and joining us here today. Absolutely brilliant. Round of applause. Fantastic. Great.